Hi, I'm Dawn Perlmutter. Welcome to the Symbol Intelligence Group. We are a group of experts with very unique and specific backgrounds that specialize in the research, study, and analysis of symbols, codes, and symbolic evidence. We identify the symbols of gangs, cults, drug and human trafficking organizations, violent extremists, terrorist groups, and a variety of subcultures. We also analyze their corresponding beliefs, ritual practices, and crime scenes. We advise police departments on cases and crime scenes that involve symbolic evidence and unusual trauma. These are often referred to as ritualistic crimes because they involve unfamiliar ritual practices and unusual evidence. We are the real life version of the Da Vinci Code, if you remember those films. We also provide law enforcement training, and just recently, the Symbol Intelligence Group Officer Awareness Training is now available to the public. So, what is symbol intelligence? Well, at its basic level, it's identification of symbols, signs, emblems, codes, insignia, every type of symbolic evidence. What we call symbols, police call gang identifiers, are just identifiers. There's a lot of different types of symbols. We tend to think of graffiti, hand signs, tattoos, but there's also language, codes, slogans, alphabets, numbers, emojis. Dates have a lot of symbolic significance, especially to specific groups, commemorating anniversaries and battles. Dates also have uh, meaning for astrological events. There's other types of symbolic evidence, for example, natural objects, jewelry, clothing, and even weapons. Different groups actually brand themselves. These are cartel symbols, drug trafficking organizations. So, not just the cartels, but terrorist groups, extremists, like any organization, utilize branding to promote their cause, differentiate themselves from competitors, and cultivate a strong identity. Not only do the cartels have logos, but even their enforcer cells have their own logos. And sometimes they'll co opt a symbol like the biohazard symbol. So, why do we need to know about these different emblems? Because we'll see them on clothing, on weapons, on vehicles, on money, and on drugs. Drug stamps are entire symbolic databases of drug stamps. Terrorist symbols, they also brand themselves. The imagery in their emblems corresponds to their beliefs and their different territories and things that have meaning to them. We're starting to see terrorist flags in cities like New York and Washington, D.C., and across the country, even on college campuses. This is a Hezbollah flag. They're Hamas terrorist flags at different demonstrations. We're even seeing Hamas headbands. Now, if people are flying those flags and wearing these headbands, does that indicate that they're members of these terrorist organizations? Not necessarily. They may not have pledged allegiance, but it certainly indicates that they have support for them. With symbol intelligence, when you're interpreting different types of evidence, it always has to be done in the context of other things. This was on January 1st in New Orleans. This vehicle had the flag of the Islamic State on the back of it when it committed this horrendous crime, killing numerous people. And this demonstrated the person's support for the Islamic State and their affiliation with the Islamic State. That was a very specific crime scene identifier. White supremacist organizations have a number of different types of symbols, And you see them at demonstrations, hand signs, very specific letters, symbols. You'll see them on t-shirts, in graffiti, in tattoos. You'll also see that they use what's referred to as alphanumeric codes, which basically is that a number equates to the letter in the alphabet. So for example, 23 equates to W, 16 equates to P, WP stands for white power. You'll also see posters and flyers with certain symbols that you may not recognize at first, but when you do, you'll realize that these flyers and posters are advertising white supremacy organizations. There are human trafficking symbols. This is not just important for law enforcement, but also important for health professionals, educators, and parents to be able to identify the signs and symbols of traffickers. They can be tattoos, they can be branding marks, and social media is filled with coded messages and symbols for child sex trafficking. Even emojis are used by child sex traffickers to advertise their services on websites without detection and to communicate. Now, these symbols change often, but it is important to be familiar with them. Occult symbols. There's a misunderstanding regarding occult symbolism. Everyone tends to think Satanism or negative associations, but there's a lot of different types of occult symbolism, like alchemy, astronomy, ancient magical symbols. These are a few examples. We often see occult symbolism in graffiti, on churches. Here we have an example on a church statue, symbols, numbers, very specific type of symbolism. Symbolic analysis. Let's take a look at the types of things we do. Symbolic analysis is literally doing a very deep dive into different types of symbolism. So for example, there's something called information requests that law enforcement agencies put out when they're looking to see if other departments have information on certain symbols or other information. And the Symbol Intelligence Group regularly gets requests to identify symbolic evidence. This was graffiti that we were able to identify. It's a combination of the hammer and sickle communist symbol on top of the circle A anarchist symbol. This occurred on Columbus Day in combination with the expression in the writing. It was able to determine that this was an anti-capitalist anarchist. Tattoos can be everything in this particular tattoo identifies all the different things associated with the gangster disciple gang. Graffiti, you can identify the gang, also things that are crossed out that show disrespect. There's gang codes, confiscated documents from inmates that have entire languages and codes that they create. G.S. Clevens is our expert in gang codes. He is retired captain from the Westchester County Department of Corrections. He was a district attorney investigator in New York State County, and he was assigned to military intelligence and the Criminal Investigation Command as a federal agent in the U.S. Army. G.S. Clevens has written the textbook on deciphering gang symbols. He trains officers in these very unusual looking codes, how to decipher them, how to determine what they say, and if they're affiliated with particular gangs. Not all symbols are the same. There's something called sigils and seals. They look different and they function different. These are a type of magical symbols that are used in rituals. They're used um, in types of ceremonies and ritual practices as a form of protection. This is jewelry. They can be a tattoo, or they can be done in different cultures. For example, in this case, they're called vevis. They can be done for um, divination or for other types of ritual practices. The types of symbolism they use and the tradition they're following, we're able to determine that. Sigils are cross-cultural and have been used throughout history. So depending on the country and the tradition they come from, they can be done in different languages. Tony Kale is our expert in narco culture and Afro-Caribbean magic religious traditions. Tony Kale is an ethnographer, author, cultural anthropologist, and former law enforcement officer. Tony Kale also provides training on these specific areas, and he's written numerous books on narco cults, ritualistic crimes, and a lot of the very specific traditions. Symbolic evidence. Symbolic evidence is what is found at different crime scenes. For example, this sigil was at a crime scene. Um, that was on a door. This one was at a different scene, hanging from a ceiling. This one was painted inside this container that happened to have human remains in it. And symbolic evidence can be almost anything, depending on the type of scene and the practice that you're dealing with. I'm Dawn Perlmutter, Director of the Symbol Intelligence Group. I am an expert in symbols, symbolic methodologies, ritualistic crimes, and ritual homicide. I've advised dozens of police departments and prosecutors' offices on cases of ritualistic crimes and present expert witness testimony on ritual homicides. I'm the author of several um, books, textbook, encyclopedia, and journal publications. I've been doing this for over 25 years. Ritualistic crime scenes that contain symbolic evidence are usually outdoor scenes. That's because they're affiliated with nature-based ideologies. And oftentimes, a lot of the symbolism is done in natural objects found at the scene. For example, branches or rocks. Um, Here you have things that are nailed to trees, very unusual items. This is a symbol that was on a beach next to an ocean, made out of giant rocks. Cemeteries are often the site of ritualistic crimes. Sometimes um, people use the human remains, or they'll do ancestor worship, or they'll have sigils and different symbols hanging from trees or near certain grave sites. Railroads are often the site of ritualistic activity and can be near crime scenes. The reason for that is not because of the transportation, it's because metal has very specific connotations in magical ideologies. And the steel, the comprised of iron, that's why they're left on the railroad tracks, not because of the train, because of the metal. And you will have things like animal sacrifice, you will have human remains, all kinds of symbolic types of evidence like beads, sometimes knives, symbols written on different things. Also, very often, um, ritual crimes occur near bodies of water in the woods. Sometimes we'll have photos or images of people that have been part of rituals that were done. This is referred to as image magic. It can be negative or it can be positive. Image magic is a subject all on its own that is very detailed, and we'll have to get into that in another video. Well, that's just a small sample of the types of things we do at the Symbol Intelligence Group. And as I said, we offer officer and public awareness online training that goes into these different topics in much more detail. You can view our class schedule at our website, symbolintelligence.com. Just click on the training link or at the bottom of this video. Also at our YouTube channel at Symbol Intelligence. We have our class calendar. It changes every month. We offer different classes every month, so check that. If you like this video, please hit subscribe. We're going to be posting videos on very specific types of rituals, crime scenes, and different types of analysis of symbolism. I'm Dawn Perlmutter, and thank you for watching this video about the Symbol Intelligence Group.